Okay, we're back for another reading of Mariel of Redwall, a book I got during Easter time, the rose time for the new year, around springtime, and last time we left off, I always liked reading this around springtime, beginning of spring. Redwall books are for spring, Easter, and Nowruz, and Narnia is for Christmas and winter. So anyway, we left off at around chapter 6. So, the famous kitchens of Redwall Abbey were abustle with activity that night. Friar Alder, the thin, lanky mouse in charge of it all, added wild plum juice to an enormous hazelnut crumble he had just pulled from the oven. Alder blew on a scorched paw, complaining loudly. "Not enough time. That's all I've been given. Just not enough time. Who do you think I am, a magician? Less than 3 days hence, and I've got to supervise a full-blown Abbot's Midsummer Jubilee, berry tarts, cream puddings, 12 kinds of breads, cheeses and salads, not to mention a surprise cake." Bag and Run, the otter twins, followed Alder, waving their paws, repeating his every word in comic imitation. "Breads, cheeses, and salads, not to mention a surprise cake. Ouch!" Friar Alder had turned quickly and dotted them both between the ears with a wooden spoon. "I told you not to mention a surprise cake. Now off you pop, the pair of you, and go help Dandelion and Saxtis." Dandelion and Saxtis were being taught the art of woodland summer cream pudding making by a charming little squirrel maid named Tree Rose, though they were paying far more attention to the pretty cook than to the recipe. "Now to make woodland summer cream pudding, we need a deep earthen ware bowl. Pass me that one, please." Dandelion and Saxtis fought each other to grab the bowl and gave it to Tree Rose. Calmly she took it from them with a disarming smile. "Great sillies, you nearly broke it, fighting like that. Right now, pay attention. First a thick coating of red currant jelly inside the bowl. Next roll out your sweet chestnut pastry, very thin, like this. Bag, run! Stop eating those blackberries. I need them for the pudding." The twin otters bounded away to torment some other creature, their mouths stained purple from the berries. They caught a young bank vole named Petunia and kissed her cheeks until she was covered in purple otter lip marks. Petunia's mother grabbed them and set them with a soggy dishcloth. Dandelion and Saxtis roared laughing, but Tree Rose merely pursued her mouth primarily and reprimanded them. "There's nothing funny about those two ruffians. Watch me, or you'll never learn. Now make sure the sweet chestnut pastry is well bedded into the red currant jelly around the sides of the bowl. Then we coat the pastry with an extra thick layer of yellow primrose cream. Having done that, we take the blackberries, starting from the bottom of the basin. We place them on the cream, pressing just lightly enough to make them stick to the cream. Tick, tick. You great clumsy fellows, not like that. You'll burst the berries. Wipe your paws and watch me." Blushing furiously, Dandelion and Saxtis wiped their paws as the young charmer carried on efficiently. "Now I'm going to coat these thick almond wafers with some light honey cream like so. You see how easily they stick to the blackberries when I use them as the next layer. Then that's it. All that remains now is for me to spoon the apple cream into the center until the basin is full. To finish off, cover the whole thing with a short hazelnut pastry glazed with clear honey to give it a nice shiny crust. Open that bottom oven door, please." "Ouch! Ouch! Ah! Whoop! Great silly mice! Use oven cloths." to protect your paws. Out of the way. I'll see to it. You two are as much use as moles up a tree. Dandelion and Saxtus sucked their scorched paws and stood watching, red with embarrassment, as Tree Rose, the perfect little Miss Efficiency, swung the oven door wide, popped the pudding inside, and shut the door with a few deft movements. Mother Melis wandered over, trimming the hedges with a strawberry flan. Hello, Tree Rose. How are the two star pupils doing? Clumsy as ducks on an iced pond, Mother Melis. Tree Rose turned and flounced off. The badger ruffled the ears of the crestfallen mice. Never mind. Tell you what, if you get me some cider from Gabriel Quill to bake my horse chestnuts in, I'll let you try one each. The pair dashed off happily to the wine cellars. Melis chuckled as she helped herself to a parful of apple cheese and nut salad that Sister Sage was chopping. Poor old Dandelion and Saxtus, that young Tree Rose is enough to turn any novice's head and set him on his tail. So she does it all the time. Sister Sage topped the salad off with crushed mint dressing. Yes, I can remember a young mouse being like that about me when I was Yes, I can remember a young mouse being like that about me when I was a snip of a mousemaid. Brother Hubert, would you believe? Melis chuckled deeply. What, you mean old Dusty Drawers, Hubert? Surely not. Oh, he was a quite handsome young dog at one time. We studied together under Sister Verity. She was the stern old stickler. Hubert, she said, stop staring like a hungry owl at Sage, and get on with your work. Sister Sage patted her rotund little waist. That was when I fell out of love with Hubert, and into love with food. Ah, well, that's the salad. What's next? Pears and custard with wild cherries? My favourite. In the wine cellars, Dandelion and Saxtus followed Gabe Quill. His nephew Durry carried the lantern for them, as Gabe pointed out some of his specialties. See that little keg yonder, aye? See that little keg yonder, aye, well, that's the best wild plum brandy ever fermented in these cellars. They do say it was made by Brown Sprinkle Quill, my ancestor. Marvellous stuff it is. One thought of that cure a drowning fish. That's why Sister Sage or Simeon are the only beasts who use it medicinal purposes. That big ton barrel at the back now, that's Dandelion Beer. Very good of a cold winter's night with toasted cheese. This one here, you must try this, rascal. Funniest drink I ever did make. It was meant to be buttercup and honey cordial, but I made it too sweet. So I take a herb here and a plant there and chuck some in to better it to touch. Mercy me, it didn't go any less sweet, no sir. It started a fizzling and a bubbling. Little uns do love it dearly. Here, try some. Dandelion, Saxtus, and Durry stood wide-eyed as Gabe Quill tapped the barrel and drew 3 small beakers off. The bright yellow cordial popped and fizzed, gurgled as it were alive. Drinking it proved almost impossible. Gabe Quill stood by, quaking with mirth as the 3 young ones tried. Wah! Oh, it's gone right up my nose. It tickles all the way down. Oh, golly, it's like having a tummy full of mad butterflies. Gabe took a jug over to his cider barrels. Do you want a drinking cider or a cook? You want a drinking cider or a cooking cider? Oh, a cooking one, I suppose. Whoops. Oh, sorry. It's for Mother Melis. She's baking horse chestnuts. Woo, for the Jubilee. That stuff could tickle you to death, Mr. Quill. Well, it's certainly got you young'uns all of a wiggle. You'd better make it upstairs, carrying a jug o' cider. Sit down now and sip some of this cold motherwort tea. That'll calm you a bit. Above stairs in the kitchens, Father Alder was at his wit's end. The Four-Mole and his team had decided to make the biggest raspberry cream pudding ever seen in Mossfowl country. Alder threw his hat and danced upon it. "Flour, raspberries, summer cream everywhere! I can't stand it!" Four-Mole ignored him, but a fat mole named Buxton waved a reassuring paw at the harassed Alder. "Don't you affright yourself, Meister. Ussens knows what we're about." A young mole named Dante, white with flour from tail to tip, climbed into one of the huge copper stockpots. "Oi, don't ye fret thy whiskers, Sir Alder. Your Burgo tipple oi thy raspberries in yer, and mind the garlic. Don't go near 'em." Burgo turned indignantly to Fur-Mole, who blanched at the smell of the wild garlic. Burgo always carried his voice sounded squeaky through the peg he wore at the tip of his snout. What's Dante rumbling on about? I don't like the smell of garlic either. That's why I always pegs me nose up tight. I look at little grubs well in the honey." Fur-Mole fished baby grub out of the panful of warm honey. "Gur, I'm tiny rascal. What do ye want to falling in the honey for?" Grub waved a sticky, careless free paw. Better falling in honey than mud, I allus says. Boint nothing wrong with honey, bees makes it. Fur-Mole wrinkled his bottom nose, nodding in agreement. "Hoer, the child be right. He'm be growing up wisely clever. Stand over there and lick thyself off. Little Grub and Buxton, Thrubber, see what you can do for Sir Alder. He'm fainted right away. Don't leave him lying there in your raspberry pudding mixture." From the kitchen doors, Abbot Bernard stood watching the proceedings with Simeon chuckling beside him. My, these moles are certainly teaching Friar Alder a thing or two, Bernard. His kitchen will never be the same again.
"Indeed, Simeon. Excuse me a moment, will you?"
"Brother Ash, would you help those little mice to roll that great cheese they're trying to move?
If it falls on one of them, they'll be flattened."
"Oh, Tree Rose, I don't wish to interfere, but is that a Woodland summer cream pudding? I can smell it beginning to burn in the ovens." Tree Rose had been bustling about efficiently, attending to several things at once. However, she had forgotten the Woodland summer cream pudding she had put in the oven some time before. Panic-faced, she dashed off to attend it. Simeon nodded in admiration. "Your sense of smell is getting better, Bernard."
"Thank you, Simeon, but I had a double motive. Tree Rose is very pretty, but far too efficient and snippy.
It will teach her that even the best of us can make mistakes. Also, I would hate a Woodland summer cream pudding to be burnt in the ovens, especially hers. To tell the truth, and I wouldn't tell her, Tree Rose does make the best Woodland summer cream I've ever tasted." Tree Rose arrived at the ovens, grabbed up a cloth, and swung the door wide. "My pudding! It's gone! I smelled the crust edges just begin to scorch, so I pulled it out for you." She turned to see Roof Brush standing by her pudding, which was set on the big flat cooling slate. Roof Brush was a rough-looking squirrel, not given overmuch to hanging about kitchens or joining the growing band of Tree Rose's admirers. He sniffed at the pudding before sauntering off. "Looks all right to me." Tree Rose watched him go. What a fine bushy tail, well-pointed ears, and powerful shoulders. Mother Melis banged the ladle upon a saucepan. Come on, all you dibbons, bedtime now." Abbot Bernard yawned.
I think I'll join the Dibbins, Simeon."
"I think I'll join the Dibbins, Simeon."
"Me too, Bernard. It's been a long day. And we're getting no younger, my friend. I'll just take a stroll first and check that all the outer gates are secured.
Simeon, the blind herbalist, placed a paw on his friend's shoulder. Right, I'll come with you.
No, you won't. I can sense your weariness. Besides...
No, you won't. I can sense your weariness. Besides, what could you see in the dark that I could not feel?
Or feel 10 times better. Day and night are alike to me.
You are right, of course. Good night, Simeon.
Good night, Bernard. Sleep well.
The abbot went off to his room, knowing that shortly the kitchen fires would be damped for the night, the cooks would retire, and peace would settle over his beloved Redwall Abbey. As Gabool predicted, the ship Greenfang had crossed the bows with Dark Queen, the huge black galley commanded by Saltar. Upon hearing of the death of his brother Bludrig, the corsair captain put about, piling on sail and oars as he set sail for Terramort Isle. The whips cracked below decks as drivers flogged the galley slaves on to greater efforts. The seer at the top of the mizzenmast scoured the waves for sight of land below his claws. The wide sails bellied out on the night breeze. Saltar stood in the bows, putting a fine edge to his curved sword on an oilstone. Bleak-eyed and grim-faced, the sea rat muttered beneath his breath, "I'll send you down." "I'll send you down where the fish will eat your flesh, and the sea water and rot your bones." Gabool the Wild. There was... Oh, wait a minute. Sorry. Gabool the Wild. There was never any love lost between me and Bludrig, but he was my brother, and blood must be repaid with blood. Terramort Rock sighted off the star. Terramort Rock sighted off the star bow, Captain. The lookout called down. We can drop anchor in the cove afore dawn with this wind behind us. Sir Saltar sheathed his sword and began polishing the needle tip of his cruel gaff-hook, scowling at the dark lump on the horizon which marked the black forbidden rocks of Gabool's pirate kingdom. "Let her douse all lights, but we're close enough to harbour for north sails. Tell the crew to arm up and stand ready. There's killing to be done tomorrow." Saltar's first mate Leather went aft to carry out his orders, with the hook swinging from a neck cord and his sword at his side. Saltar stood leaning on the forward rail. He had never lost a fight or left an enemy alive. Gabool the Wild might rule Terramort and Fort Bladegirt, but Saltar had heard, as had every other salty sea rat, the story of how he was nearly bested by a mousemaid. The corsair spat viciously over the side of the curving bow wave. "Lord of all seas, king of all sea rats. Ha! You'll find out tomorrow, Gabool. You'll learn that Saltar the corsair is no mousemaid." In the banqueting hall of Fort Bladegirt, Gabool stood, giving instructions to 3 fort slaves, dormice, who had been captured in a land raid. "Stand on his shoulders, you. Polish up round the top where the ring is. You be still and don't put your bare paws on the metal. You'll have paw marks all over me bell. Of course you know what that means, don't you?" Doing his best to stand still and not touch the bell, and the ragged slave called over his shoulder, "Yes, master. Paw marks all over the bell means whip marks all over our backs." Gabool slouched down on his throne. He picked idly at a dish of fruits crystallized in sugar honey and poured a goblet of wine. "That's right, 3 lashes for each for every paw mark. If I were you, I'd rip me shirt up and wrap it around me paws. Save yourself a lot of whipping." The 3 slaves hurried to comply with the suggestion, tearing up pitiful remnants of tattered shirts and bandaging their paws with the strips. A thin grey rat with a patch over one eye came running. "Lord! Dark Queen sails have been sighted." "Where away?" "To the north. She should drop anchor here by dawn." Gabool stroked his beard thoughtfully. "Good. Are the troops standing ready, mate?" "Aye, Lord. 5 score to board the Dark Queen, and sail her off once Saltar and his crew step ashore. 50 archers halfway up the cliff, and 100 more fully armed with pikes and spears to form his reception committee, just as you ordered. You've done well, Greypatch. Have a cup of wine and some of these sweetmeats with me. Don will soon be here. Greypatch pulled out a mean-looking dagger and tested its edge. Last Don Saltar ever see you, eh, Lord? I can go and visit his brother Bloodrig at Hellgates, and you, me old shipmate, you can wear a velvet patch when you're captain of the Dark Queen. Hey, you, polish harder. Put your skinny back into it. Yes, master, the unfortunate slave polished harder. Gabool laughed. Maybe you're hungry. Do you like eating fish? Yes, master, I like eating fish. Gabool winked at Greypatch as he called back to the Dormouse slave. Well, if you don't rub harder, the fish'll be eating you. The thin bodies of the slaves shook and quivered with effort as they rubbed and polished at the great bell with all their might. Gabool's jokes were not to be taken lightly. Gabool and Greypatch took their wine and sweetmeats over to the window where they could watch the Dark Queen sail in upon the tide. Greypatch watched the savage sea rat ruler and reflected as he sipped his wine that Gabool was becoming more difficult to tread around. They had been ship-rats together since their young days, Gabool commanding, Greypatch obeying. That was the way it had always been. However, for some time now, Greypatch had been looking more to his own ends. When a sea rat king began murdering his captains on the slightest pretext, times were becoming perilous now. The patch-eyed rat was sure of it. Gabool was drunk with his own power and had become dangerous. Any beast could be slain at his whim. But not Greypatch. Offers of captaincy and velvet patches did not impress him. Such offers could easily turn into a blade between the ribs if Gabool saw fit. In his fertile brain, Greypatch began forming his own plans as he laughed and joked with his unpredictable companion, while all the while the Dark Queen rode the waves to Terramort. Chapter 7. Dawn broke mistily over the dunes, promising another hot summer day. The mousemaid Storm awoke to find herself surrounded by toads. During the night, the well she had dug had filled up with water, and all around Storm the toads were closing in on her and the precious water. She closed her eyes again, feigning sleep. Her paw grasped Gullwhacker, the knotted rope, as she watched them through partially closed eyes. It was a dangerous situation. Many of the toads were armed with tridents. She waited until a large male natterjack was practically standing over her before springing into action. Whop! Gullwhacker came down with such a resounding force upon the toad's head that he was laid out senseless. Storm whirled the rope, shouting aloud. Back off, slimy skins, or I'll whack you into the middle of next season. A huge, overweight, speckled toad hopped heavily forward, flanked by 2 tough-looking young ones, armed with the fearsome 3-pointed tridents. The fat one blinked several times, his throat bulging and quivering. Groik! This is our land. This is our water. Rock! You are not allowed to stop here. Go now or die. Oikamon has spoken. Storm was not about to go, and she did not mince her words. You can speak all you want, fat face. This is my land and my water. This little bit right here. I am called Storm Gullwhacker. I've come from the sea, and I'm going nowhere. And I'll fight you to stay here. Oikamon puffed himself up to full swell. You are very insolent for a mouse. We are too many for you. If you fight, you will die here. Storm sprang forward with a yell, swinging her rope. The toads backed off slightly. She laughed scornfully. "Ha! Right then, I'll die here, but I'll take a few of you with me. Well, come on, froggies. Who's first? Or are you going to sit there clicking and croaking until I die of old age?" At a signal from Oikaman, the toads advanced. Storm dipped the knotted end of Gullwhacker into the well water to make it heavier. The two toads sprang at her. Recklessly, she jumped upon one, knocking the wind completely out of her as she scored the bullseye on his companion's snout with her weapon. Two more whushed from behind her. Storm thwacked at them wildly. As she did, one young toad ran in on her blind side and stabbed her footpaw with his trident. Maddened with pain, she hurled herself upon him, throttling with one paw and belabouring with the rope in the other. Now toads began hopping in on top of her, their weight carrying her to the ground, although she fought ferociously every bit of the way. Suddenly a cry rang through the dunes. "Eulalia!" There was a croak of alarm from the attackers, followed by a pounding of swift paws. In the next moment toads were flying through the air like birds as three hares attacked with landsputs. Teeth bared, eyes wide, the three creatures moved with the practiced ease of natural fighters, their long ears streaming out behind them as they skillfully kicked with big, supple hind legs, each a sandy-coloured seasoned warrior, brooking no nonsense from their flabby adversaries. Thudding, thwacking, tossing with immense energy, they drove the toads from Storm, belabouring and punishing without once more using their lance points. The hare defeated the toad band swiftly. Storm sat up, nursing her wounded paw as the oldest of the hare trio strode lanky to the well. "Good day, I say, young'un, is this your water? May I?" "Oh, no." Storm nodded dumbly. "Good egg, I say, young'un, is this your water? May I?" Storm nodded dumbly. The hare drank his fill, spitting out the grit. He pulled a wide face and made a leggy, old-fashioned bow. "Pshaw! Tastes pretty yucky, don't it? Allow me to introduce us. I'm Colonel Clary. Family name's Meadow Clary. Of course, but you can call me Clary. Everybody does. This young wag here is none other than the celebrated Brigadier Time, and the young gel is our ward, the Honourable Rosemary. Hon Rosie to your capital. Now pray tell me whom I have the honour of addressing, ma'am, though you're a bit young to be a ma'am, aren't you?" Storm stood up, favouring her uninjured footpaw. She threw the rope across her shoulders, squinting at the odd trio. "My name's Storm Gullwhacker. This is Gullwhacker. Do you like it?"
"Humph!" Brigadier Time snorted through his stiffly waxed whiskers. "Adequate for the purpose, I suppose, but there's nothing like a lance butt for dealing with toads, young mouse. You take it from me."
The toads had begun to regroup indignantly. Oikaman repuffed himself.
"I will collect many more toads. We will be as many as the sands of the shore. Then you will all die."
Hun Rosie had an ear-splitting laugh. Every creature present winced as she launched into it. "Woo-ya! Afraid we'll be long gone by then, you old frog walloper. Sorry we can't stop around and be slain. What? Duty calls?" Oikaman spat bad-temperedly.
"Go then, death awaits you if you return to this place."
The other toads shuffled forward aggressively, shaking their tridents. Colonel Clary strode decisively forward. He twirled his lance tip, disarming the leading toad with a flick. Clary's eyes grew hard.
"Right, pay attention, you slimy rabble. We are the long patrol from Lord Ronblade of Salamanderstron. Nobody stops us as we range where we please, and we're not carrying out orders. If you take one more step forward, we will use our lance tips, not the blunt ends. Then you'll really see death visit this spot. Back off now, marsh spawn. You there, leader chappie. Tell all ranks to retreat, or you'll be the first to leave your gizzard decorated by lance point."
Oikaman croaked out some sullen orders, and the toads retreated hastily. Horn Rosie turned to Storm. "I say, can you walk on that bally hoof?" Storm tested her injured football. "I'll be all right. Where are you going?" "Somewhere you can get proper fodden and drink, old gal. You don't want to be hanging about this stumping great wasteland twiddling your paws." Brigadier Time inspected the paw.
Not much work with the fetlock, young mouse."
The three hares carried satchels across their backs. Horn Rosie took hers off. "Righto, First Aider Rosie to the rescue, what? Wah-ha-ha-ha! I can't resist bandaging things, jolly good at it. Now some Hart's Tongue Fern, Staghorn Clubmouse, dab of salt, and bind the blinking lot up with a few strands of maidenhair fern. There, I'll bet you could tip a mouse mazurka with that little lot on. Try it." Storm tested the footpaw. It was very comfortable and easy. "Thank you, Rosie. It feels as good as new." Colonel Clary had been pacing restlessly up and down. He shielded his eyes and took some bearings from the sun.
"Good egg, laddies. Oh, good egg, ladies. Got all the latest in shrubbery foot fashions sorted out now. Top hole that we can get going. Actually, I was thinking of heading northeast into the woodland fringes. We could have lunch there and visit old Pakatug. What do you say, Time?"
Yes, why ever not? Best idea under present circs, what? It took some time for Storm to fall in with the hare's mode of speech. They seemed to treat everything in a very casual, off-paw sort of manner, but they were usually correct in their judgments. By early noon they had left the flatlands. Behind them the gritty expanses mottled with sparse vegetation shimmered in the summer heat, with the dunes a hazy half-mirage in the distance. More dunes stood out ahead, sinking, shifting sand dunes that were difficult to surmount. Topping one such sandhill, they found themselves facing a fringe of pine-clad woodland, dark green and shady, a haven from the glare of the midday sun. Brigadier Time marked out a vast horribeam and led them to it. He held up a cautionary paw. Keep mum chaps, old Pakatug's close. I can feel it in my whiskers. A pointed dart whistled past Time's ear, burying itself in the hornbeam. From somewhere close by, a gruff, angry voice rang out.
"You're trespassing on Pakatug's land. Who be yer?"
"Clary, Time, and Rosie, the long patrol of the Foot and Fur Rangers," Colonel Clary answered. "Oh, and we've got a young Thingummy with us, a mouse girl." Though Storm tried to see who it was, she could not make out no sign of a living creature.
"Thingummy, mouse girl," the gruff voice answered. "What sort of Thingummy? Anyhow, how do I know you're you? What's the password?"
Clary snorted impatiently.
"Oh, come out, you old buffoon. You know it's us.
Listen, I'll give you the bally password. Pakatug Tree Fleet can bring you good things to eat. Now, come out, you old bark walloper." Storm had to bite her lip as not to laugh at the odd creature who dropped down from a nearby spruce. Pakatug Tree Fleet was a fat old squirrel. He carried a long, hollow blowpipe and a pouch of darts. Sticking out of his ears, wound about his tail and paws, and covering all his body were leafy twigs. He resembled a small moving bush with eyes.
Land otters, what have you brought Paka for lunch?"
Pakatug growled fiercely through the 2 teeth remaining in his mouth. Brigadier Time sniffed. "We're not land otters. We're hares. And if your manners don't improve, laddie, you won't be dining on oat scones and mountain cheese, followed by barley and barley bake." Pakatug nearly tore the knapsack from Time's back.
"Oat scones, mountain cheese, where?"
"Not so fast, Larrybuck. Take us to your hideout first. We want to put the old nosebag on in comfort, you know." Pakatug led them into the woodland to a small gurgling stream. Lilacs, wild rose, shrubs, and trees overhung the spot, turning it into a shady green grotto, and the rocky outcrop which edged the stream was covered in soft moss. Gratefully they sat down. The old squirrel went to fetch some water. "Real son of the land, old Pakatug," Colonel Cleary whispered the storm. "No harm in the blighter as long as you feed him and obey his silly little rules. The chap's an absolute fanatic on secrecy. Passwords, blindfolds, secret signs, the bally lot. We'll see if we can get you to Redwall." Storm echoed the strange word. "Redwall? What's that?" "Oh, it's a jolly place. You'd love it. All the best mice live there. Hush, here comes Pakatug." The old squirrel set a steaming kettle and 5 beakers out. "Rose Bay willow herb tea. Put the kettle on when I saw you coming a while back. Now out with the grub, land otters." Digging in their packs, the trio turned out the promised repast, together with some extra delicacies they had brought along. Storm could not recall when she had tasted a meal so delicious. The hares sipped gratefully at the fragrant Rose Bay willow herb tea, nibbling at this and that. Pakatug, however, launched himself upon the food, as did the hungry Storm. They practically ended up fighting over candied apple rings. The old squirrel glared at her. "You're a tough one, Mouselet. By my brush, you are." "Wah-ha-ha-ha-ha!" Hun Rosie gurgled as she poured more tea. "I'll say she is. We caught her trying to battle with a full-toed army, single pod. Storm Golwalker's not the sort of grit by a long chalk. By the by, Storm did spurt. Where do you come from?" Storm stuffed the apple ring into her mouth. "Oomph, oomph, oomph. That's good. Where I come from? Don't know, really. Don't know where I was bound, either, before I met you. Can't remember my name. Called myself Storm, 'cause I was thrown ashore by the storm. Came from the sea. I suppose me and Golwak are here." Pakachug chewed on an oat scone and stared hard at the young mouse.
"You mean you ain't got no name, no home, you can't remember nothing?"
Cleary coughed politely, struck by a sudden idea. "Ahem! Sad, isn't it? That's why we brought her here. We thought you might be able to take her to Redwall. They'll probably find out who she really is jolly soon. Good at riddles and mysteries, those Abbey Thingummies." Pakatug stood up, dusting his paws off.
"Hoo-ha! Don't go ahead of your tail there, landotter. You ain't landing me with no mouse gill, as can't remember which season to be."
Storm jumped up indignantly. "Who said I want to be left anywhere with anyone? I've got some say in this, you know. Besides, who needs a squirrel that can't make up his mind whether he's a beast or a tree?" Hun Rosie pulled Storm beside her.
"Steady on, old gill.
We know you're the bravest of the brave and all that rot, but you're in a strange land now, among strange creatures. This is dangerous territory. We're only trying to get you back to your own bally kind. I mean, what better for one than to be with one's own creatures, eh?" Pakatug gathered up the kettle and beakers.
You can dress it up which way you like. I'm not being saddled with no mindless mouse. By the great hornbeam, I'm not."
For the first time, Storm felt alone and unwanted. She walked off out of the squirrel's bower and into the surrounding trees, swinging her rope. "Me and Golwacker don't need any beast. We're all right." Brigadier Time eyed the squirrel coldly. "Now see what you've done, bucko." Pakatug pulled his tail over his head and chewed the end. "Oh, all right then. But mark you land otters ain't having things all your own way. By cracky, you're not." Cupping his paws, he called the Storm. "Come on back.
Back your mouse before you forget who you are. We are.
Before you forget who we are, I'll take you to Redwall Abbey, but only on certain conditions. Storm had turned and was walking back. Conditions? What conditions? Pakatug turned to the hares.
Grub. I need food for the journey. Nice grub like your landdaughters carry. So I'll take her if you give me all the food out of those haversacks.
Clary twitched his whiskers.
I say, steady on. What do we eat? Oh, we can live off the jolly old land until we make it back.
We can make it off to the jolly old land until we make it back to Salamanderstron, Hun Rosie interrupted. We've done it before. Brigadier Time emptied his knapsack out.
So be it. What else, Squirrel? Ah, well, I don't want every beast in the world knowing where my gaff is. See, my home's me own secret. So I want the mouse blindfolded when I take her to Redwall so she can't find the way back to this place.
Hun Rosie looked at Storm. You can use your gullwhacker as a blindfold. Storm nodded agreement. She was becoming curious about this place called Redwall Abbey. Pakatug made his final demand.
Lastly, I don't stir paw until tomorrow dawn cracks. Take it or leave it.
Clary waited for Storm's nod of assent before he spoke.
Right, you vagabond, but take
jolly good care of this mouse girl. Do you hear? She's got all the makings of a tough light warrior. Within a short time, Pakatug had settled down on the mossy bank and was snoring loudly. Clary shrugged as he too lay down. Cool and snug here. If old Pakatug says it's a secret place, then you can bet a bee to an ant it is. We might as well have a rousing good snooze. Tomorrow we can travel to Salamanderstron. As for you, young Storm, you're bound for a new life at a jolly old Redwall Abbey. What do you think of that? But no answer came from the young mouse. She was curled up asleep on the moss in the green stillness, with Gullwhacker, her rope weapon, clutched tight in both paws. And that's the end of chapter 7, and I will stop there for the time being. We'll continue. I'll see you later.